Well, hey there, friendships. Welcome back to Curtis' Corner. If you're new here, hi, I'm Curtis. This is my corner, and on today's Film Friday, which is actually a Saturday, we're gonna finish off the first half of the 2000s decade with part 2 of ranking my favorite horror films. So if you missed part 1, you can go ahead and click right up there, and you can check that out. But otherwise, buckle up, get ready, grab a snack. We're gonna roll the intro, and we're gonna get started. So coming in at number 20, I have Jason X. Now, this is not everyone's cup of tea. The only reason why I personally have placed Jason X at this spot is, one, I find it way more enjoyable than the past 20 films that I talked about in part 1. But on top of that, I love the design and the concept that they were going for Jason in this new iteration of the Friday the 13th franchise. This was one of the first that I can really remember Jason movies that I watched when I was like 10. I watched Friday the 13th, the original, but I don't really remember that. Like, I don't remember watching it at that age. I remember watching it when I was older. However, this one, it's a nostalgic thing. To me, this is my first Jason movie, and that's why I have it at this spot. I think the effects in this were really great. Some of them could use some work, and the storyline is nowhere near perfect, and the acting is much worse. I get that. But it's that nostalgic first movie experience for me that made me basically fall in love with horror. This is my origin story, essentially, for loving horror as much as I do. Piggybacking off of that, number 19 is Freddy vs. Jason. We have all waited years, obviously, some more than others, but we have wanted to see Freddy and Jason come together, fight each other, or team up with each other, and just take out a whole mess load of people. We half got that. We got Freddy. We did not get Kane Hodder as Jason. That's why this one is placed low. I think this one is more enjoyable, action-wise, storytelling-wise. They had some good ideas. It didn't quite reach the mark that they could have gotten, but the effects are really well done. The weaknesses, at least the weakness of Jason, not great. How he's afraid of water. I get that water could be his weakness because as a kid he was drowned, but he literally pops out of the water in the first Friday the 13th. So, no. But the whole Freddy with fire, that makes sense. The acting is definitely subpar. It's not the greatest. So that's why this is not placed higher, but it's also not placed lower. I really enjoy this film, and this is, again, it's within that realm of Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th, where it's just that nice comfort horror movie that you can always just put on just for kind of something in the background, and you just have enjoyment out of just watching it. Speaking of having something just on to enjoy, just for straight enjoyment, coming in at number 18 is Seed of Chucky. This is one of my favorite movies in the Chucky franchise. I thoroughly enjoy this one. I think it's fun. It took the series in a really different direction that it never was in before. It started to kind of go into that kind of socially aware and comedic route with Bride of Chucky, but it just amped it up even more so. It brought in a queer character. It made Chucky still evil, but had more of a heart, which I enjoyed the character arc that Chucky was going through in this film. I think the addition of Glenn and Glenda are fantastic, and I really enjoyed the story of this film. The animatronics, I find, are even better as the series goes on. The effects are really well done. The only issue, as why it's placed so low, is the acting. The acting, aside from Brad Dourif and Jennifer Tilly, I think could have been done a bit better. But that's essentially the reason why it's down so low. And that's a major component in this. Obviously, bad acting, you get placed lower. Just like with bad effects, you're going to get placed lower on my list. Coming in at number 17, we have the Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 2003. This is the remake of the original one from the 1970s. This was very dark. It took it into a way darker spin. It created more lore and really amped up, I found, the suspense and the scare tactics from the original. The original is a classic. I understand it's a classic. I still have not personally watched the original, and that's why this one is on my list and not the original, because I never got into the original one yet. I own it. I will be watching it. Don't worry. But this, it's almost like with Jason X. This was one of the first few that I ended up watching when it came out, or at least a couple years after it had come out. This helped to solidify my obsession, if you will, with horror films. I love the darker take. I love how scary they made Leatherface. Again, it's not a strong story, which is why it's a bit lower. The acting could have been slightly improved on, but it's not the worst acting that's on this list. And I think they made Leatherface super scary in this, and that is why it is in my second half instead of the first half. Coming in at number 16, we have American Psycho. This film is one of my favorites. I will put this on every now and then just to have on. It's one of those interesting, it's not an enjoyable film, as in like Seed of Chucky. It is definitely an interesting film because you're seeing Christian Bale in a role like you've never seen him before. He's goofy when he needs to be, but very menacing at the same time. The character of Patrick Bateman is so complex that you need to actually watch it a couple times to really kind of understand his psyche and what he's going through. The scenes that play out in this film are really well done. I think the acting is really good, especially being like early 2000s, because most films in the early 2000s don't exactly have the best acting, in my opinion. The acting definitely was, I found, stronger, very cliche, but stronger in the 90s, and definitely got a lot better as the 2000s went on. But the early 2000s definitely needed some work on the acting, and that's why this one is placed lower on this list, but it's not as low as the rest. Coming in at number 15 is Blade Trinity. One of the main reasons why I've placed this so high is the comedic aspect of Ryan Reynolds in this. I absolutely love Ryan Reynolds in this film. It's one of my favorite films that he is in. And vampires. You know me, vampires will always hold a soft spot in my heart. That is the main reason as to why this is placed higher on this list. The storyline, it's not great. The acting is really well done. I enjoy the acting. The effects look really good. The makeup and prosthetics that they use on some of the vampires, one main vampire in particular, is really well done. I really enjoy the action sequences that they have in this film. I think it's just a really fun, enjoyable film to be watching, and I will put this on time and time again and just really enjoy the hell out of it. At number 14, we have Donnie Darko. This is my favorite Jake Gyllenhaal movie. The reason why it's lower is because of how confusing it is. I love the visual aesthetics of this film. I love the story of this film. The acting is superb, and the atmosphere of this film is extremely creepy and unsettling, and throughout the entire film you're not entirely sure why. The premise of the film, however, very, very confusing, to the point where every time I watch it, while I thoroughly enjoy it, I have to look up what it's about because I always forget what it's about. But I have seen this film like 6 times, and I still have no idea what the film is about until I look it up. It is very confusing, but if you want to have that subversive into just darkness kind of vibe, you're going to enjoy this film. And that is why it's in the middle of my list. At number 13, we have Resident Evil. The Resident Evil series as a whole is a guilty pleasure. By no means is the Resident Evil series a good adaptation of the games. I myself have never played the games, but from what I've heard, none of the films are essentially good or faithful to the games to be adapted. However, the storyline, the scares, the action. I have watched the Resident Evil series minimum 6 times. I have watched them since Resident Evil Afterlife has been out in theaters. I have watched them since then over and over and over and over and over again. And every time a new film came out, I would rewatch them all. Milla Jovovich in this role as Alice is lovely. I thoroughly enjoy her portrayal of Alice. Not that she's an actual game, she's a character that's made up for the films, but she is a great addition to this. Everything in this first film is magnificent. I thoroughly enjoy it. The only reason why it's so low is because the other films on this list just beat it by just that much. The only complaint for this one is the work of the CGI. Some of the monsters are not up to par, and it's definitely very PS2 heavy kind of CGI feel. To compare the CGI in the film with itself, the best portion of CGI I find is when the laser grid is coming and the people are like getting sliced or cut up into cubes. That was really good. The liquor, however, not that great. They definitely could have used a lot of work on the liquor, and it shows how dated that CGI is. Coming in at number 12, we have Saw. Saw basically essentially became the Parasite of Halloween, but in a good way. What I mean by this is, since 2004, every single year they came out with a new Saw film, which then ended in 2010. Saw, the original one, while the acting is very, very underwhelming, its saving grace is the storyline. It is the small, almost claustrophobic atmosphere that they give, the suspense, the mystery behind who the killer is, the twist at the end, and just all the effects that they use in this film. Each film, for the first 6, got better and better and better and more elaborate and more fleshed out as the series went on. This was the kickstart of an entire $1 million franchise on such a low budget. And that is why it's also so well done, because of how low of a budget they use with the amount of profit that they got, but just the main focus being that twist. That twist was just, I find, perfection. It was just done so well. And I did not see it coming from a mile away. One of the best Saw films ever made. Coming in at number 11, we have Final Destination. This film, acting was okay. The premise of the film and the story and just how everything played out is absolutely wonderful. I cannot get enough of the series. This is one of my absolute favorite series out of everything that's horror. I have seen this one also many, many times. It is so good. The fact that you could put different fears into everybody without even thinking that it could have been a fear is insane. Everyone is already pretty much afraid of airplanes, but then adding an explosion only to have it not be real, and then it ends up having anyone who escaped dying on the plane that actually ends up happening be hunted down by an invisible force that is death, to then come after and kill them in the order that they were supposed to die in. Never heard of before. And it's so good. My only critique, I will say, with this film is the one in the bathroom. The kill that happens in the bathroom with the little water that comes out of the toilet. Like, okay, it comes out, it goes, it can follow the path or the divots or whatever that are inside of the bathroom flooring. But then once the kill happens, it like retreats back into the toilet. That's my only like, that's not believable. Everything else could easily happen in that film. And that is why it's scary. I still have a fear of being around a log truck from the second Final Destination. That is how impactful these movies are with their death sequences. Action, the acting gets better with each additional film, but it's just the elaborate deaths that happen in these films is just mind-blowing how they're shown and portrayed in these films. Now here comes the juicy stuff. Coming in our top 10. Our 10th spot is Secret Window. Not a whole lot happens in this film. However, Johnny Depp's portrayal of the main character is so good. The twist at the end, phenomenal. It brings a whole new eeriness to the already kind of eerie story. It's a dark, enjoyable film. You laugh at some parts, especially as the reveal is coming. You kind of laugh at a certain thing that Johnny Depp does, at least I do, but that is one of the things that I constantly will always do just in my own personal life over and over and over again. I think this film is one of the best Stephen King adaptations to date, and I actually enjoyed the film a whole lot more than the novella that it was based off of, which is Secret Window, Secret Garden. I think they did a really well done job on this film, and I could not have asked for a better movie-going experience when watching this film. At number 9, we have Jeepers Creepers 2. I have still yet to see the third one. Apparently it's not that great, but I really enjoyed the first two. This one is where it is because I find it's better and more elaborate, and I find the creeper to be even scarier in this one than he was in the first one. I like the story. I like how small the actor count was for the first one, but I like more elaborate scenes, as well as I feel like the characters in this one are a little more enjoyable to watch, especially more enjoyable to see die. I think the creeper got to shine a bit more in this film. I think taking it from just a farm and doing more of like a field trip and focusing it on having one main focus, but then having a lot of secondary focus characters was the right move that this film had to do. And how they link it to the first one, I thought was genius. I think this film is the best in the trilogy. I have not seen the third one, but I am looking forward to the reboot. At number 8, we have Resident Evil Apocalypse. This is the second film in the Resident Evil franchise. I thought this one was better than the first. I enjoyed the slight more action sequences, but the zombies I found were a slight bit scarier. I found the liquor to be a little more well done with the CGI, and I find the addition of some video game characters that are supposed to be in it a much well appreciated addition to this film. I think this one is the best one in the entire 6-film franchise, but the acting can seem a little made for TV movie, and like I said, the CGI still isn't great. It did improve slightly from the first one. It's still just not where it could be, especially during this time. But Milla Jovovich is what's essentially saving the film from dropping lower on this list. 7, we have Underworld. Need I really say more? Werewolves, vampires, gothic, Kate Beckinsale. I'm just going to leave it at that. Number 6, we have The Village from M. Night Shyamalan. All of you have now probably turned off the video. For those of you who have stayed, thank you. I enjoy this film. I think it's a very enjoyable, eerie film. It's not a scary film. It is technically horror, but I don't think it's scary. It is eerie. I like the twist. Not many people like the twist in this film, but I think it works really well, especially with the concept that the film has. I think it works extremely well in this film, and it adds a whole other layer as to what exactly is happening. You're left slightly confused at the end because it's what is happening and why are they doing this. But I think the lead up to it and building all of that tension and then just the outcome at the end is what really makes this film stand out for me. And that's why I placed it here. It's not quite top 5, but it's almost there. But speaking of top 5, we have The Ring. This film is so good. Naomi Watts is phenomenal. Samara is scary as hell. The way people die, just the whisper of the 7 days is terrifying. To A, get that phone call, B, hear that voice, and then C, know that you're dead in 7 days. That is a terrifying concept. This is a really well done remake of the original. Not that I've seen the original, because I can't do, I'm sorry, I know it's classic, I can't do subtitled movies. I can't, because all my attention is going to be on the subtitles and not on the visual, and I'm going to miss everything. This film I thoroughly enjoy, and I have seen this film multiple times as well. I think it's so well done. The effects, especially the effect of Samara coming out of the TV, I think that's so good. And then just like the glitchiness of the way that she walks or crawls, all of that, it just adds to the creepiness of the film, and that I find is where it shines the most. The acting is superb, storytelling is wonderful. Top 5, 100%, forever and always, I believe. At number 4, we have The Forgotten. Not many people know about this film. This is a Julianne Moore film, and it is one of my absolute favorites of all time in this era. Essentially, the premise is she wakes up, her son is missing, and no one remembers her having a son. The world itself doesn't even remember that she had a son. Like, her house in where her child's room should be, it's not actually looking like her child's room anymore. So now she's spending the entire film trying to figure out where her son is, why no one remembers her son, and why she's the only one that remembers her son. It is a terrifying concept, and it is done and executed so well. The twist at the end is interesting. I wouldn't have thought it to go in that direction, but I don't also hate the direction it goes. Take out the ending. The entire film itself is what solidifies it as such a good, tense, horror-ish thriller. I usually lump in thrillers into the horror because it gives you kind of the same feeling as a horror film, and they usually go hand in hand. If you've never seen The Forgotten, you need to watch it right now because it is so good. The acting is good, the effects are good, the premise and the storyline and how it all plays out is absolutely wonderful. Coming in at number 3, we have The Others. Everything about this film is perfection. I really want to see the remake because I know there's a remake coming. I hope they're going to do it justice. Nicole Kidman, I refused to watch this for the longest time because the trailer always freaked me out, especially when the kid just goes, "But Mom, I am your daughter." That always terrified me, and I had no idea why. The concept that this person was pretending to be the daughter of this woman, and just, it's all ghosts, it's a haunted house story, and then when you watch it, it's something completely different. And that is what I love. The promotional campaign for this film was not at all what the film actually was. The twist at the end made me angry because I should have seen it coming from a mile away, and I didn't, and that is why I love this film, because it kept me so much in the dark, and it's so good. And again, if you've never watched The Others, go and watch it right now because you will not regret it. Coming in at number 2 is Ginger Snaps. This one is one of my all-time favorites. I have seen this only a few times, but that is only because I can't find it literally anywhere, and I don't own it yet. But it's a werewolf film, it's a Canadian film, the acting is decent for the time. It's one of the better acting in this era, but it's so good. The story, the effects still hold up to today. That's how good this film is. It is so well done. The concept, everything, the character arc, the humanization and the dehumanization of the same character is insane, and I absolutely love it. Again, if you've never seen it, go and watch it. Finally, coming in at number 1, we have Final Destination 2. Like I said, this is one of my all-time favorite franchises. Of course, it's got to be number 1, and of course, it has to be number 2 because this is the best one in the entire franchise. My favorite one out of the whole franchise is number 3. Storytelling, effect, visuals, scares, all of that is number 2. This is the definition of terrifying real-world experiences. Like I said before, I still have a fear of being on a highway or just being on a road in general and seeing a log truck. Terrifying. The kills in this are much more believable, way more believable than the shower scene with the toilet water. And they changed the way the order of death is. In the first one, they have it where the way they die on the plane is how they are being hunted down by death. In this one, how they die on the plane, in real life, they're dying in the reverse order. This one is a car accident on the highway because of the log truck. The last people to die in that highway accident would be the first to die, and then it goes backwards through the list. Still, extreme terrifying concept, and just, again, it's terrifying to think about all the different ways that you can die. And that's why it's my number 1. So, hopefully you enjoyed this ranking video, and hopefully you enjoyed my placements of these films. If you agree or disagree with any of the placements, let me know down in the comments below. If I haven't put any horror films on this list that you think deserve to be on this list, it's probably because I haven't seen them. So leave comments down below as well, letting me know what movies I should be watching in order to add them to my list. I have parts 3 and 4 and 5 of the 2000s horror films on their way. Part 3, unfortunately, is not going to be coming out until October 28th. Next Friday will be a new movie review. I'm hoping for Barbarian. If I don't end up being able to go and see that, I will have for next week part 3. But as of right now, part 3 will be out October 28th. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you give it a like. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button because I put out weekly videos. And hit that notification bell so you know when I post a brand new video, because if you don't, how else are you going to know when I post? You won't. so do it. I will see you on a Monday for a new makeup first impressions. I got myself the Star Wedding collection from Jeffree Star Cosmetics. So I will be playing with a palette and a setting spray that I got on Monday. So come and wear your best. But until then, bye friendships.